Is -8 in large part because we've got winds out of the north at 14, gusting to 22 miles per hour. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
This is the Gashouse Gang on 104.1 FM KMOX. Sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer. Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. The genuine, the original. Now the Gashouse Gang on KMOX.
With you until 1 o'clock, it is the Gashouse Gang. Mike Claiborne, Matt Pauley, Chris Ranji. Glad you're with us today. We are going to get into the NFL, the AFC and NFC Conference Championship games. They are happening on Sunday, so we will talk things over with Patrick Doherty from NBC Sports about what's about to transpire. The former St. Louis Rams are still going. Will they make it to a Super Bowl? Will we see a Rams-Patriots Super Bowl again? It is very, very possible that that's what we're talking about a couple of weeks from now. We, gentlemen, though, after we've just had this past weekend of winter warm-up, and both of you guys were involved in the Cardinals caravan as well, now it's on us. Now we've got spring training just around the corner. Next month, pitchers and catchers will report, and before you know it, it's going to be baseball season, Claibs.
Yeah, it's time. I'm looking forward to it. I'm already here in Jupiter, and so I was telling Matt yesterday that they overhauled the complex where there's new batting cages, a new weight room, and some other things that they are working feverishly to have this thing ready by February 4th. I've never seen that many people on the property, players included. You include the minor league. I've never seen that many people working on a project before. So hopefully it'll be ready to go. They've made some improvements inside Roger Dean Stadium. So I think anyone who comes down this season not only will see a new-looking ball club in some regard, but they'll also see some other amenities that they will certainly appreciate.
This is always kind of a weird couple weeks for me because we're so baseball focused during warm-up caravan weekend, and then you have 2 weeks until things really get going down in Jupiter. And I'm ready to be there for sure. There's still some things that could happen, and we've seen some trades happen across Major League Baseball. Mackenzie Gore goes to the Texas Rangers. Freddie Peralta goes to the New York Mets. So it finally feels like we're at the point where if you're going to make a trade, you'd like to get it done within these next 2 weeks because you really, in a perfect world, we're talking about human beings here. Chaim Bloom has a job to do, and if say a Brendan Donovan trade does not present itself until after spring training gets started, then so be it. That's part of the business. But if everybody has their preference, I think the Cardinals would like to be respectful and courteous to Donovan if possible and get him to his new spot before spring training gets underway.
Yeah, and the other thing about that, Matt, it's not like it's imperative to trade Brendan Donovan. No. I think the fact that you're listening to offers to see what his value might be to other teams, but if the Cardinals open up the season with Brendan Donovan playing second base or wherever, that's okay by me, and I think a lot of fans would appreciate it too, because if you're going to get something, you better make sure you get something that's legit. You mentioned Mackenzie Gore. I didn't know Mackenzie Gore turned into Randy Johnson, where, you gave up, 5 players for a guy who's been under 500 in his career. And I know he was a top draft choice at one point, but I didn't see enough of Mackenzie Gore to warrant that many players, unless these guys are suspects that the Rangers have already determined.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
One of the guys they gave was the number 13 pick in the draft just last year. Yeah. That was the I don't think the jury's out on him yet. And even the Freddie Peralta move, they got 2 top 100 level prospects who are very close for Peralta. So it helps that Freddie Peralta makes $8 million, which is nothing for a guy of his stature. But you're definitely
in New York.
That's true. We're seeing what guys are being valued at, and it seems like those values are going up. So even though we're talking about pitching, maybe that plays into the Cardinals' hand when it comes to Donovan.
Do you think, because I didn't feel like this was a very heavy free agent market, that teams really up the value of players just because there weren't enough good ones out there compared to years past?
I don't know. That's interesting because Like I think with a Kyle, I think that applies to Kyle Tucker.
Tucker, maybe Bellinger, but Bellinger was kind of low on that list. Lower.
In a year where there's a bunch of dudes available, Kyle Tucker's probably not getting a $60 million contract.
Right.
He's a really good player. I'm not trying to be dismissive of him. He's a very, very good player.
He can't stay healthy. That's one of the problems. He's always hurt.
He can't that's true. But he was the best hitter available this year in free agency, so he gets to go get a $60 million deal. And reportedly he had some 10-year offers out there, but the annual average value was way, way lower compared to what the Dodgers gave him. So he'll take these 4 years in L.A. and then try again.
So Tucker made some comments the other day after signing that contract, which of course works out really well for him with the $60 million AAV. And he was asked about the health of the game. Basically, I'm paraphrasing what the question was. And of course, he's going to say, well, I think it's fine, because he just made that big contract. But the discussion after that contract has been, the Dodgers did this again. Nobody can possibly compete with them. We have to have a salary cap now. And as we all well know, we are less than a year away from a probable lockout happening. How much do you guys think that deal in particular with the Dodgers gives ammunition to owners more than they already had? Because we know owners want that cap. Players do not want it. But how much does this move us closer to a real extended fight?
I don't really think it does, because we see this every year. There's always a guy, that's always in the eyes of baseball people may say, well, they paid too much for this guy. And you just pick a year, there's always a guy that's going to be out there. I think that the challenge is, there's just too few guys making good money. There's a lot of guys who are right on the cusp, but they're not making the sort of money that we're seeing the Tuckers or the Otanis and or Juan Soto. Though that's a handful of guys compared to 800 players that play in the game. So, every year you're going to see a contract like that where you're going to say, oh, this is out of hand. I can't believe. I can remember you can go back to the 80s when Ozzie was making $3 million a year, and that was the highest paid guy in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And people then said he was making too much money. So that's an annual argument that we hear. Should there be some cost certainty? Yeah, I think so. I mean, either you have to have ownerships who are willing to compete, and you've heard me say that there needs to be a floor in place where there's a certain amount of money that owners have to spend every year. And if you can't spend it, then you should get out. You should sell your team. There are some guys I don't think can probably afford to do it on that level. So if you can't, man, they're selling teams for billions of dollars. So sell it and let somebody else go in who's willing to make the commitment. And if you do that, I think you'll see a little bit more of a competitive balance amongst baseball players.
Yeah, the Dodgers have some financial capabilities that other teams across baseball don't, but that doesn't mean that the other teams are unable to compete. And admittedly, the Milwaukee Brewers have not won a World Series, but we just saw them have the best record in baseball last year. And the Dodgers were very close to being eliminated from the postseason completely, couple 2-3 times last year. It's a really hard time to talk about this at this moment because almost out of randomness, the Dodgers have won back-to-back World Series, and they're the ones who are doing all these crazy things when it comes to money. I don't like the idea that the Dodgers can do some things that other teams in baseball can't do, but it's always been that way to a certain degree when it comes to the larger markets. The baseball postseason is still the most random postseason of all the sports. It just, again, we're talking about this at a moment where the Dodgers have won 2 in a row, and I actually wonder if deep down there are some owners, even some small market owners, who are happy with what the Dodgers have done because they feel like that's going to create some ammunition.
Oh, I guarantee it.
To try to get a salary cap in there. Like you're going to, at the surface level or in front of a camera, you're going to be, woe is me, but deep down, and there's some conspiracy theories out there that say basically the Dodgers have been encouraged this offseason to do as much as they can possibly do as a way to help build a case for a salary cap. And I know, Claibs, you agree with me on this one. I don't know where you're at, Ranji. I still stand by the fact that I do not believe the players are going to agree to a salary cap. They'll agree to things that look like a cap but are not a cap, more tax thresholds, higher tax rates, other things to try to slow down spending at the top level. But the idea of a hard cap, until it happens and I am just flat out wrong, I will sit here and say it's not going to happen in my lifetime.
I think there'll be some subtle adjustments. I think the two words salary cap scares everyone, but there's got to be more cost certainty. And I think, as you said, maybe people encourage the Dodgers to spend money. But, at the beginning of free agency, we were hearing teams like Pittsburgh and Minnesota that were knocking on the door of some of these players. Cincinnati was making an offer, and they all came up just a little bit short. But here's the thing. If they were willing to offer that money to those certain players, they haven't spent a dime since then.
Yeah.
So, it's all kind of a facade to the point where, we really mean business this year. We're really going to go out and spend money, but they don't.
That's
so, right. You got to kind of look at the big picture here and just say, all right, you're going to be our stalking horse this year. You're going to go out and lead the way and get everybody the impression that you really are committed to winning. And I think it was an easy one to say that when you're at Pittsburgh because you have Paul Skeens and you're saying, well, the Pirates mean business because they have Skeens and they want to build around them. I'm trying to think of who have they acquired that's going to make them that much better since they allegedly made the offer to, was it, who was the player they made the offer
They went after
to?
Schwarber, but they signed O'Hearn. I mean, credit where credit is due. They signed a legit dude in Ryan O'Hearn.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But your point is spot on, Claibs, and it actually makes me angry. It makes me so angry at the Pittsburgh Pirates.
KMOX, if I were you, and let them know. I'd call them right now. First-time caller, long-time listener. You're mad as hell. You're not going to take it anymore.
I am. I'm mad on behalf of Pittsburgh Pirates fans that they want to trot out this idea that they're going to be in the Schwarber sweepstakes, which they never actually were. And until they signed O'Hearn, they hadn't signed a free agent to even a 2-year contract in over 10 years. Don't sit here and go get legit guys and give them 2 or 3 year deals. Guys who are legit major league players. And that's what they did with O'Hearn, but that's one stinking guy. And they don't do it. So the Schwarber thing with them really bothered me because it was so disingenuous. They never actually were going to sign him. Yeah,
he's from Pittsburgh. Here's the other thing that we need to take into account. Everybody's climbing all over the Dodgers because they won back-to-back World Series. They make this seem like this is like a regular thing. The Cincinnati Reds were the last National League team to win back-to-back, and that was in the 70s. So it's a little harder than maybe what people think with regard to being able to repeat, which means there is a little bit more parity in the game than maybe some people want to admit.
That's true.
Because, you look at the Dodgers and the money they spent, and if I'm not mistaken, the Mets may have spent more money than the Dodgers. And what the Mets do? They watch the playoffs on TV because they weren't part of it. So it's more than just the players on the field. I think it's the organization and how you go about things that also make this an important role.
And Claibs, it's off the top of my head, but it's something like 11 of the last 15 World Series winners, and maybe it's 11 of 16 now with the Dodgers. It's a number close to that, but that's how many different World Series winners we've had in the last 15 or so years. It's not like there are a bunch of repeats all the time. Granted, the Dodgers have made a lot of World Series appearances, but it's not like they are winning every year. And I don't think the problem in baseball is that the Dodgers spend all this money. I think it's what we were talking about a moment ago, is that you have too many owners who are not willing to spend the money they have. And what they do in Florida with both baseball teams there in Miami and Tampa, what Cleveland has done, what the Reds, as you mentioned, the Reds, they've got a good young core they put together in a winning season. They're not committing to payroll. They're bottom 5. So, I mean, that to me is a bigger problem in baseball than teams like the Dodgers who get the money and then spend it because you know what LA could do? They could sit on all that if they want to, but they choose not to. Same with the Mets, same with Steve Cohen, same with the Phillies. They spend the money they make.
And you know what? And they're supported by their fan base. Dodgers and the teams you mentioned, their fans come out because they see the reinvestment.
That's right.
And I would say this to Cardinal fans. I know people, well, they're not spending any money. I tell you what, you come down to Jupiter, and I can show you where the money's going with regard to development and making sure that when they get on this run, it'll be a consistent run instead of going out loading up with free agents, because you can homegrown enough players that either you use them in a deal to get players that are closer to being ready to win, or you can watch guys grow through the organization and they'll win together. I always liken what I'm seeing with the 2011 World Series team, where you had John Jay and Daniel Descalzo and Alan Craig and a bunch of guys who all came up through the system. I don't know if that's going to be the case here, but it sure has some fingerprints that would resemble how the Cardinals were able to build that run that they were able to maintain. So there's a lot of ways to spend money. You can overspend on players. You can do that. You can also reinvest in your organization with regard to development and drafting and performance people and everything else. Cardinals have added additional coaches on their minor league teams. So there's a lot of ways you can spend the money, but it's not always just throwing money at mediocre players and then hoping over the 5 to 8 year contract that they give you at least 2 to 3 good years.
I want to talk a little bit more about that and how the Cardinals are building a roster. In fact, the word build is what Bill DeWitt II, Bill DeWitt Jr., said over the weekend regarding this team. Not rebuild, he said build. Want to discuss that when we come back. We've got Matt Pauley, Mike Claiborne, Chris Ranji on the Gashouse Gang, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling.com and Overhead Door Company of St. Louis.
To be bragging on results, but are they true or misleading? For example, in some cases, a firm may try a case even though the at-fault party has no lawyer, then brag in the ad about their results. My son Matt got one for nearly $50 million, but we never collected one dime. Some lawyers may say they got a result even though they were sitting second chair at a firm like mine, and even though they had little to do with it. Happens all the time. All that glitters is not gold. At Morgan & Morgan, our results are real. Visit forthepeople.com and go to settlements and verdicts to see for yourself what your case may be worth before you hire a law firm. Do your homework. Fact check. It's easy and too important not to. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/deal for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details.
Hey guys, it's Dave. You know that saying, new year, new you? Well, how about new year, new home upgrade? Right now, when you buy 4 windows from Universal Windows Direct, you get 4 free. That's one of the biggest offers they've ever done. And with 0% interest financing for 60 months, you can spread out your payments over 5 years, same as cash without a penny of interest. But there's more. You'll get $1,000 off your entire project, plus a little something to look forward to, a vacation voucher through Destination Motivation with every purchase. Call 314-334-2522 or visit universalwindowsdirect.com.
St. Louis has a voice.
KMOX, the voice of St. Louis.
That voice has shared our stories from headline to history.
Another home run! 4 in a row for Newfield.
from moment to memory.
President George Bush is on his way to St. Louis right now.
Among those voices, Ron Jacober.
Welcome back to the Voice of the Cardinals, KMOX.
Working at KMOX is an honor and a responsibility to represent this community. It's one we take seriously. KMOX, the voice of St. Louis.
Looking for your dream home in Wentzville? Welcome to Sutton Farms by Lombardo Homes, where community and comfort come together. Enjoy resort-style living with a private clubhouse, indoor courts, a splash pad, sand volleyball, walking trails, and even a dog park. Design your own custom home in our Parkside, Nature, or Tradition series, all within the top-rated Wentzville School District. Discover the perfect blend of small-town charm and modern convenience at Sutton Farms, located off Piney Road in Wentzville. Visit LombardoHomes.com to learn more.
Hello, Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe. Congratulations, KMOX, on your 100th anniversary. We're so excited that you've continued to be an important fabric and part of the St. Louis area.
Gashouse Gang on KMOX. Mike Claiborne, Matt Pauley, Chris Ranji. Over the weekend was winter warm-up. I mentioned Cardinals Caravan. Both Claibs and Pauley were out and about in the region participating in that. But here at home, the winter warm-up took place, and Bill DeWitt Jr. was, he fielded some questions, and one of them was about the rebuild the Cardinals were in, and that was the word used. And he said, well, and I'm paraphrasing, but, I would call it more of a build. And I think some people took exception to that, wondering what that meant. Is it just a semantics argument? Because we do know the Cardinals are trying to build up their minor league system. They're trying to build up their facilities, their training, and all of those things. But does it matter what the Cardinals call it? Do they need to tell the fan base we are rebuilding this team?
I think you said it best. I think it's more semantics. And remember, this is uncharted territory for most fans. They've never gone through this before. So I think there's a sense of trying to understand what certain words mean. And then there's a sense of apprehension. There's also a slight sense of panic because they don't know where this is going and how long it's going to take. I'm of the belief it'll take place sooner than later. But, you have people who are skeptics and, because they haven't seen this before, they fear the worst and don't expect anything better than that. And that's unfortunate. I think you have an interesting nucleus of young players that when given the opportunity may be able to flourish and make this more competitive than one may think. But, it doesn't happen overnight. But then again, sometimes, Matt, you wake up and all of a sudden here's a team like maybe the Kansas City Royals or a team that you didn't see coming, and all of a sudden they're in the hunt. And I always say, what happens if this team is close or competitive around the 4th of July? Then what?
Yeah, and I understand a very proud individual like Bill DeWitt not wanting to use the term rebuild because sometimes that word brings so much along with it. By dictionary definition, a build and a rebuild are the same, unless you're an expansion franchise and you're not building from something.
Webster here we got.
It's a rebuild. You're trying to get back to where you were at earlier. The thing I keep going back to, and this is where you were going with it, Claibs, Chaim Bloom has said on multiple occasions that if you go out and make good decisions, even if those good decisions are decisions that are focused on the future, if you're making good decisions as an organization, well, you're going to get something out of those decisions. And sometimes things start to happen a little bit sooner. I'm not going to sit here and say this is going to be above 500 team. I'm not going to sit here and say that this is going to be a team that's contending for the postseason. I feel like around 500, sticking in playoff contention is the absolute ceiling for this team. But the people out there who think that this is going to be some sort of 100-loss team, I simply do not understand those people. Starting pitching is better. You don't have Miles Michaelis. You don't have Eric Fetty. You may or may not have Andre Palante. If you do have Palante, it's because he won a job. So that means he's doing better than he did last year. Those were 3 spots last year that were very often non-competitive. So the starting pitching is already so much better than last year, and there's legit competition in spring. The bullpen should be fine with what they have. I'm not 100% sure how they're going to score runs. They take a step back with Wilson Contreras walking out the door. I'm not running away from any of those things. They're going to sign a right-handed bat at some point in time. But to know where they were at last year in the high 70s in wins, and all of a sudden thinking that they're going to be a 60-win team, I don't know where people get that from, because if you look at the roster, it's not that far off from last year, and in maybe the most important area, starting pitching, it's better.
Mike Claiborne, Matt Pauley, Chris Ranji on the Gashouse Gang. Cole Bassett, who's watching us on YouTube, says fans are patient when they know what they're waiting for. And I would agree with that. As long as they know what this team is doing and they're intentional about it, I think people will be patient with the Cardinals. Matt, Sports Open Line tonight, and prior to that, or no Sports Open Line. I know you got Rush Hour Sports.
Billiken basketball
Oh,
tonight.
yeah.
No Rush Hour Sports tonight because Billikens play at 4:30.
Oh, that's early. That's right.
Wow.
So
they got a class to go to or something?
I don't know.
Hey.
Or maybe because of the weather, they may have moved it up a little bit. I mean,
It's
it
at
is
St.
St.
Bonaventure.
Bonaventure. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
have you ever been to St. Bonaventure?
I know.
Oh,
I've
good.
not been to
You're
St.
good. That's
Bonaventure.
one thing.
Is it bad?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Matt Pauley
It's a
will
good thing it's named after a saint. Nobody would go there.
talk to you later, buddy.
Bye.
All right.
Claibs and I will stick around, though. NFC, AFC championship games are on Sunday. And how does Phillip Rivers' head coach sound to you? We'll talk to Patrick Doherty, covers the NFL for NBC Sports, next on KMOX.
Different people living 4 different lives, all coming together every day between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. to talk about life, actual life, not so much headlines or did you see what Trump did today or XYZ. Never predictable because I never know what I'm going to talk about from one segment to the next. So it truly is unique and unpredictable. Join us.
104.1 FM, KMOX.
Breaking tradition with innovation in St. Louis and St. Charles for over 31 years. Michael's Flooring Outlet. Expert installation, personal service, peace of mind. Michael's Flooring Outlet. The flooring experts. michaelsflooringoutlet.com.
Now, KMOX weather from the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Desk.
It's 9 degrees in St. Louis. The low overnight will be 3. The snow is really expected to get started tomorrow and be heavy Saturday night into Sunday. Be very careful out there.
Bernie Miklas here for Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer that's been taking great care of St. Louis families since 1927. Dan Saliga is a 4th-generation owner-operator of this proud family business, and he is maintaining the highest of standards. The Miklas family has called on Saliga for many years, and we give them the highest marks for honesty, knowledge, and class. You won't have to worry about Saliga trying to fast-talk you into something you don't need. But if a repair is needed, Saliga will patiently explain all of your options and answer all of your questions. The Saliga family business is still going strong after nearly 100 years, and they believe they must earn your trust every time. Saliga will never take your business for granted. Saliga services all makes and models for home or business and offers free estimates and financing options. I recommend Saliga's Priority Club. It's a maintenance plan that will save you money by extending the life of your equipment. To find out much more, call Saliga at 314-481-7333 or visit SaligaHeatingandCooling.com.
St. Louis, are you ready to go Hardy?
I woke up on the wrong side of the truck bed.
The country rock hitmaker behind Truck Bed. Wait in the truck and one beer. He's bringing his No Holds Barred live show to Hollywood Casino Amphitheater June 5th. With special guests Cameron Whitcomb and McCoy Moore. Hardy, live, loud, and unapologetic. One night only. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. For more information, KMOX.com/events.
Now, back to the Gashouse Gang, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, overhead tour company of St. Louis, on 104.1 FM, KMOX.
NFL playoffs have been a lot of fun. Well, for some of us. For others, it has not been so fun, but we do have the AFC, NFC championship games on Sunday, and there's been some head coaching movement around the NFL as well. To talk about that with us is Patrick Doherty of NBC Sports, NFL writer there. Also a St. Charles native, born and raised here in the area. Patrick with us on KMOX. Good afternoon, Patrick. How are you?
I'm very good. And glad I made it in time. Just got back from my panic hoarding. At the local grocery store, I settled on 6 dozen eggs for the weekend. I think I'm good to go for the storm.
How was it out there?
How many gallons of milk did you get?
2 gallons. Thankfully, I went on Wednesday. I thought way ahead. I know how these things go. I knew I'd be absolutely miserable in our local Schnucks or Deerbergs today. No offense to those fine establishments, but yeah, you cannot pay me to go to a St. Louis area grocery store today.
Well, Patrick, let's talk about Phillip Rivers, who, as the Buffalo Bills had fired Sean McDermott earlier in the week, Rivers getting a job interview there. Maybe there's something I missed, but I did not see that coming.
Well, first off, I'm glad I scanned the news before I came on because I would have thought maybe you were pulling my leg on this one. Palpable desperation. I mean, second time in 2 months we're getting palpable desperation related to Phillip Rivers. And the only thing I could say, if I'm trying to think of a positive way to spend this, I don't really think there's a positive way to spend this. Like, even if you're Phillip Rivers, a potential future Hall of Famer, you have to pay some sort of coaching dues. I don't think high school football in Alabama really qualifies, but if I want to try to put some positive spin on this for the Bills, I think sometimes in the NFL, teams right now especially are almost thinking in too long of time horizons. Like, you see the Steelers and the Ravens who just had very long tenured head coaches, and kind of understandably, they really want to replicate that. But I almost think they had an overemphasis on that where Jesse Minter, I think, is going to be a good future head coach, but I would have hired someone maybe with an eye towards maximizing what could be the final 2 to 3 years of Lamar Jackson's window, the next 2 to 3 seasons. And if I'm looking at this from the Bills' perspective, I don't think Phillip Rivers is going to be a 15 to 20-year answer on my sideline. And if it's just about maximizing what could be 1, 2, maybe 3 more bites of the apple for Josh Allen, a guy who's taking a lot of hits, a real beating, almost like a Cam Newton level beating, then I don't mind it if the hire is just about, for some reason, we think Phillip is the guy who's going to get the most out of Josh Allen over these next 2 to 3 seasons, but I don't see it working from a long-term perspective, and it's a real long shot, even on a short-term perspective. Seems like a totally crazy avenue to pursue.
See, I think what you're seeing, and this happens 99% of the time, it's more fact-finding. Teams just want to pick the brains of some of these individuals that they bring in. What would you do in this situation? What would you do in that situation? And then when they do bring other people in, they'll ask that question and having a better idea of what the answer should be. So if it's nothing more than just picking his brain, because they would say, well, you know what? You came back after being away for 5 years. What did you see in your brief time that would make a good head coach down the road? And maybe I think he's more of an advisor or a consultant more than a legitimate candidate, because there are too many other guys out there.
That's a great point, because Phillip Rivers and Josh Allen are reportedly close too. And for all we know, maybe they were very upfront. Like, Phillip, we don't think you'll probably get this job, but what would you do to maximize what could be 2 to 3 years left of Josh Allen's prime? That's a really good point, where it could just be about, you're close to Josh, tell us what you would do. And maybe if we really like the answer, we'll hire you.
Make him a quarterback coach.
Yes, that would be a better place to start.
I mean, I think he's not the offensive coordinator, but he is working in concert with the OC, and he has a better understanding of the position of quarterback, being a physical guy as he was. That might be better served for him should he want to continue his coaching career at the NFL level. One of the things that I think people don't take into account is the demand of time that it takes to be a coach in the NFL. I mean, you can forget about the family. I mean, there'll be no picnics or any of that stuff, because you're working every day on something. And when it comes to detail, it's unlike anything we're going to see in some of the other sports. So with a guy with 10, what does he have, 10 kids?
I believe so.
He's going to miss a couple of recitals, and he's going to miss a few other things along the way. So I think if he's really serious, I make him a quarterback coach, and his sole job is to be able to convey what he sees from a quarterbacking standpoint to the OC as they put a game plan together each week.
It's a great point, but maybe the fact his family is so big that the price to come north is I have to be the head coach. Like, I'm not. In an ideal world,
he's because he doesn't need a box. He's going to need a suite. Yes, I don't think they have rows. I don't
They
think they
build
have
them one of
rows
the-
of 14. Yeah,
That new Bill Stadium, they're going to have to put in the Phillip Rivers suite. It'll just be too conjoined. So speaking of that job, Mike McDaniel, who is currently the Chargers offensive coordinator, and he has been for about 6 minutes, but he's interviewing for the Bills head coaching job. Is he going to find himself back in a role like that anytime soon? Maybe even this year?
Well, that's called the Cliff Kingsbury. You take an offensive coordinator job somewhere, and then 2 days later, you get a head coaching job. That's what Cliff did to USC before he took the Arizona Cardinals job. And I was surprised when Mike McDaniel, quote unquote, settled for an offensive coordinator position so quickly, because I thought his play calling would be in such demand with 10 openings this year. I just thought even if teams didn't really view him as the ideal head coach, they would want his play calling acumen so badly that the price to get him would be to make him a head coach. So I thought he bowed out of the head coaching carousel quicker than I was expecting, and I'm a little not surprised to see it rev back up this way. And Mike McDaniel's another guy. You're not looking at him like a Mike Tomlin or a John Harbaugh, like this is going to be the face of Bills football for the next 15 to 20 years. McDaniel, to me, would be the kind of hire that makes sense for the Bills, because Sean McDermott is a good coach. But 7 times, they have not reached the Super Bowl after making the playoffs with Sean McDermott. They're the only team in NFL history to win at least one playoff game 6 straight years and not make the Super Bowl. The baseline is so high with this team, but Sean McDermott, I think, had proven he was not the final piece to the puzzle. And Mike McDaniel is, is kind of a funny figure in NFL circles, where he's not taken super seriously. His play calling is taken super seriously. And again, if you're just thinking of the next 2 to 3 years, how do we get this team to the Super Bowl? Mike McDaniel's play calling, you could make an argument, would be the one thing to put the team over the top. So I don't think that's crazy. Even if he's kind of regarded as a lightweight, even if you don't think he's a 10-year answer, I think that would be a risk maybe worth taking for the Buffalo Bills.
Well, I think in McDaniel's case is, and I think you're seeing it with a few of these other coaches, they're running to the teams who have a quarterback. And
Absolutely.
in San Diego, they have one. In Buffalo, they have one. I haven't heard anybody knocking the door down and say, man, I'd love to coach the Arizona Cardinals. Their quarterback situation is so. I think, and then when he withdrew his name from Cleveland, he said, "Now wait a minute, they still have Watson and Shador, and no, I'm good. I'll just go out here and call plays." So I really think that it's pretty evident that if you have a good quarterback and a reasonable line, you have a chance to win a lot sooner. And let's face it, this is a game now that is about instant results. You don't have the 5-year plan anymore. You have to come out swinging. And we've seen teams walk away from coaches after the second year. So in McDaniel's case, as you mentioned, Patrick, everybody respects his offensive mind. So when you go to San Diego, and they got some other questions to ask themselves about their personnel. But I think when you have a legitimate quarterback, or at least we think he hasn't gotten over the mountaintop himself, but he certainly has the tools that with the right guidance and maybe a little bit more help from an offensive line standpoint, he could be that guy. And I think that you're seeing coaches running to who has the best quarterbacks.
Patrick, as you know, for us here in St. Louis, seeing another Rams-Patriots Super Bowl would be a little triggering. How likely is that going to happen?
Pretty likely. I mean, the Patriots, they're in kind of a no-win situation this weekend, because this game with the Broncos is set up as the ultimate. The Patriots have everything to lose. The Broncos have nothing to lose. The line has kind of been going back and forth. It was up to 5.5 for the Patriots. It's down to 4.5. So the public, I guess, at least the betting public, has not given up hope on the Broncos. The Patriots should be an overwhelming favorite in this game. It's the kind of game you just have to win, even though it's on the road. The Patriots, the prohibitive favorites in the AFC, even though 4.5 points might not strike people as being a prohibitive favorite. And Seahawks Rams, it's in Seattle. Maybe second only to Arrowhead Stadium is the toughest place to play in America, especially for a big game. But this is game 3 between these two teams. They went 1-1 during the regular season. The Rams had a 58-57 advantage, so a 1-point advantage through 2 games, played to a stalemate. Sean McVay's defense has been a very poor matchup for Sam Darnold. Played 4 halves against the Rams this year, Sam Darnold. Really only one of them was, well, let alone good. The other 3 were an unmitigated disaster, basically. It was Sean McVay's Rams defense that exposed Sam Darnold in the playoffs last year. This is a really tough spot for Sam Darnold, but his one good half did come in the second half of their second matchup. Maybe he figured something out. Maybe the Seahawks figured something out. But despite that daunting home field advantage for Seattle, Rams Seahawks is basically a coin flip. Whereas Broncos Patriots, Sean Payton, he's seen everything. One of the first things he did, literally, as Broncos head coach was sign Jarrett Stidham. So maybe he has faith in Jarrett Stidham in what is a one-game scenario. But coin flip in the NFC, the Patriots really are prohibitive favorites in the AFC.
You know what's interesting about Seattle, and I think the difference will be special teams. They're very good on special teams.
Absolutely.
When you fire a special team coach when the season's almost over, like the Rams did, that should tell you all you need to know, that there's some weak spots there. So that may be more of an X factor than I think we're willing to give into. And Seattle is a team, when you look at them, there's a lot of guys you just don't remember or recall as household names as far as what they've been able to do leading up to now. So I'm going to go with the route of A, playing in Seattle, B, I think special teams will be a difference maker for Seattle. This New England bunch, you're right. They have Denver's playing with house money right now. So the question is, do they tear up the playbook and give Stidham some plays that he's comfortable with? And that reduces a lot of other noise, because I think you really want to score in the first half. You do not want to play catch up, starting the third quarter. So you might want to do some things early to show New England you're willing to take a chance. And then all those little gadget plays and the things you carry in your back pocket that you've been practicing all year, you pull those out in the third quarter, and then you see what happens.
Mike, amazing points, and Sean Payton, famous for doing that. No, the only area where I might quibble with you, I think he might do it in the first half. Sean Payton,
he's got nothing to lose. Yeah, he's got nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose. He's famous for emptying the playbook. Maybe one of his adjustments this Sunday is he just does it earlier. And the NFC, you're so right to bring up the third unit, because the Seahawks special teams set the tone in that divisional round against the 49ers. That's what started the avalanche. This is apples to oranges. But Monday night, we just watched Indiana and Miami. The difference between being national champions or not was the Hoosiers' special teams. And a game where they played to a draw through two, it's going to come down to something small around the margins. And special teams is always overlooked by people like me, fantasy football players. It could very well be the difference in the NFC Championship game.
By the way, that NCAA.
How'd you do in your fantasy league this year, by the way?
I did very well. I'm not here to toot my own horn. I had a good year. You don't take that for granted, even as a professional fantasy football player. I can assure you some years are much worse than others.
That Indiana championship game, 30 million plus viewers. It is the second most watched title game in the history of the CFP. Most watched non-NFL sporting event since Game 7 of the 2016 World Series with the Cubs and Cleveland Indians. So that was one hell of a game. One more question for you, and it's a bit self-indulgent because my team got beat by the Rams over the weekend. And I guess I just want to know from a national perspective, how good is Caleb Williams? Is he actually good, or are we being teased?
Well, he's the classic any given snap player, which I don't think would be a surprise to Bears fans. And we saw quite literally in that game the duality of Caleb Williams, where that touchdown to Cole Kmet at the end of regulation is, I'm only 39 years old, but one of the craziest things I've ever seen in an NFL game. Like, truly one of the most stunning moments I've ever seen in a professional football game. Then you get the interception that basically decided the game in overtime. And he's very frustrating. It's because any outcome is capable in any given play. But even that is not very common, where any given play, he can make the best play you've ever seen. And I think with Ben Johnson, they're going to keep eliminating the flaws, the drawbacks. He took 68 sacks as a rookie. He took 24 this year. Part of that's, of course, an improved offensive line, improved coaching, but
and a good
Caleb
running
Williams
game too.
Yes, for Caleb Williams to take 44 fewer sacks as a sophomore,
That's a lot.
I just genuinely did not think that was possible. So huge progress this year. There's a reason he was the number 1 overall pick. He's already making legendary highlight reel plays. I don't think Caleb Williams is a tease. There's always going to be a little Brett Favre to his game, maybe like, I cannot believe he just threw that pass.
Yeah.
But just like Brett Favre, there's going to be a lot of, wow, I cannot believe he just threw that pass and won the game in that fashion. I'm pretty bullish on Caleb Williams' future.
On the last play for Williams, I don't think that was the route that was intended.
Nope.
That just didn't look right.
DJ didn't know what he was doing. DJ Moore.
Yeah. And now Caleb, it'll be on his record that he threw the interception, but I'm sure, and it'll be interesting to see if it ever comes out that somebody raises their hand and said, you know what, maybe I didn't square that route off the way it should have been, because it was just too obvious that somebody wasn't supposed to be where they were at. He threw it to a spot on the field where players are supposed to be. And the best player I ever saw do it was Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner would throw it to a number,
and
it was up to you to get there. And he had the receivers to get there. I just thought that somebody may have either didn't hear the route or didn't run it hard enough. And so for Caleb Williams, he'll have to think about that in the offseason. But I'll take him. I'll tell you what, I'd rather have him than Stidman this weekend.
You don't want Stiddy?
Yes.
Come on. Hey,
you can have him on the sidelines. I mean, now he may turn out to have a great game. I think it's going to be fun to watch how he develops anyway, so it should be fun.
Patrick Doherty covers the NFL for NBC Sports. It was awesome to talk to you. Also, Patrick, a St. Charles native. Hey, stay safe out there.
We didn't ask him what high school he went to.
Oh, yeah.
Duchesne High School, not Villa Duchesne, that's all girls. Duchesne Parochial High School in St. Charles.
So were you there when Dan Matusiak was there?
No, I was not. I know the last name, though. Sounds familiar.
Okay.
Every name sounds familiar in St. Louis.
That's
so
right.
You know how it goes.
Biggest small town in America. Patrick, we appreciate you.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Gashouse Gang continues after this on...
He and his digital multimeter are in high demand. So when a noisy office HVAC turns out to be a failing blower motor, he doesn't break a sweat. With Grainger's easy-to-use website and product information, he selects the product he needs to keep everything humming right along. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I was ordering food from our usual place for the big meeting. My VP said, "Please, God, no."
For workplaces suffering with corporate catering deficiency, every day's a struggle.
The food was always meh and over budget. Before Easy Cater, I thought that was normal.
Easy Cater is designed to treat CCD with a huge variety of restaurants, help meet dietary needs, and stay on budget. Use daily. One platform lets you save time and thrive. Ask your web browser about Easy Cater or start an order at easycater.com.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free no-risk consultation. 800-284-1238. 800-284-1238. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. 800-284-1238.
Glover here for my friends at Cantor Injury Law. Cantor is local, and we're here doing the work every day. We're right here in St. Louis, and we're ready to fight for you. CantorInjuryLaw.com or call 314-628-9999.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be solely based on advertisements.
Breakfast burritos for the morning brainstorm. Easy Cater. Paninis for the lunch and learn. Easy Cater. Barbecue for the clients from Boston. Easy Cater. Brownie boxes and mini bundt cakes for Brenda's workiversary. Easy Cater. One simple platform to feed any size group with food they love from favorite restaurants, plus tools to help you meet dietary needs and stay on budget. Easy Cater. All the food for your workplace, all in one place. Start an order at easycater.com.
Febreze. New Febreze Air Mist has 50% more odor fighters and up to 30% more fragrance than the old formula. So now you can take on 100% more stinky odors, like sweaty gym bags, greasy cooking smells, and the after effects of the dog rolling around in something. Just spray, and new Febreze Air instantly restores just clean freshness. Smell you later, odor. Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
When it comes to affordable term life insurance, everyone's whistling the Big Lou tune. If you're over 50, maybe a bit porky, or have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost about $200 a month. Even if you're not in perfect health, call Big Lou, because he specializes in finding big chunks of affordable term life insurance for just about everyone. Don't let diabetes or other health glitches keep you from owning $500,000 to $1 million or more of term life insurance. For affordable term life insurance, call Big Lou. Don't hesitate. Call 800-700-6898, 800-700-6898, or visit biglou.com.
Call Big Lou, don't hesitate. 800-700-6898. Call Big Lou, don't hesitate. 800-700-6898. Visit biglou.com.
Rush Hour Sports, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here.
Bernie Miklasz joins Rush Hour Sports tonight at 5 on America's Sports Voice, KMOX.
Gashouse Gang, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com, an overhead door company of St. Louis. We have less than about a minute and a half to go here. And this week we learned, Mike Claiborne, that Carlos Beltran is going into the Baseball Hall of Fame. That announcement was made, and I don't think anybody really is arguing against him being in. Right call, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, there's no question. We had him here in St. Louis for 2 years, and I've been at this a long time, and I find him to be one of the classiest, most professional people I've ever been around. The way he carried himself on and off the field was representative of the game, and certainly his family, and just everything that's good about the game of baseball and turning out people like him. Plus, he was a pretty good player here. He's a two-time All-Star. So I had no problem with either he or Andrew Jones as far as going into the Hall of Fame.
And for next year's class, it'll be John Lester on the ballot. He spent a short period of time here in St. Louis. I don't think he's much of a slam dunk, but do you think eventually he gets in?
I don't know if he's a first ballot guy. I think they've got some real challenges here. When you think about Chase Utley and Jimmy Rollins, those two guys should go in together. And then you have another level of player that we're starting to see more of. 200 wins is really like a high mark now. There's some other things that we have to take a look at. I'm not sure if we have a 3,000 hit guy in the offing or a 500 home run hitter. So we may have to take plan Bs here down the road for a little bit.
Mike Claiborne, good to talk to you again. We'll do it again next Friday.
I'll be on the high seas in the Caribbean, but we'll figure a way.
All right, let's figure it out.
All right.
Have fun down there, man.
Take care.
Mike Claiborne, Chris Ranji on the Gashouse Gang. Don't forget this afternoon, Billikens basketball. They get started at 4:15. That's our broadcast time. You can hear it right here on 104.1 FM KMOX. Have a good, safe weekend. Be careful out there. Try to stay in if you can. Coming up next, it is the Dave Glover Show on 104.1 FM KMOX.